I'm going to start tonight with a quote from Garrett Graff, who writes a Substack called Doomsday Scenario. Quote, the United States, just months before its 250th birthday as the world's leading democracy, has tipped over the edge into authoritarianism and fascism. In the end, faster than I imagined possible, it did happen here. The precise moment when and where in recent weeks America crossed that invisible line from democracy into authoritarianism can and will be debated by future historians, but it's clear that the line itself has been crossed. Unquote. And indeed, I agree with that. I believe that is indeed true. That is where we are. It matters, of course, that there are still some institutions in place, that there are still some jurists who are fighting against this fascist encroachment, but the line has been crossed. I think that one of the reasons this is so troubling and so difficult to fight against is that, as Graff points out, there was not one signature moment, there was not one signal event that made it clear, blindingly evident, that the line had been crossed. It was a series of small moments that added up to getting us to this place where I think it is safe to say that the United States of America is no longer a democracy in decline. It is no longer a failing democracy. It is a fascist country run by fascists. So, how do you get people's attention when slowly over time, the anti-American, unconstitutional behavior gets normalized because it happens so slowly? Or conversely, because so many things are happening at once, we cannot clearly distinguish between legitimate exercises of power and those that are fascistic and authoritarian. It's a very dangerous place for us to be, of course, and yet, unfortunately, it's something we should have anticipated, should have been anticipating, in fact, for years. Some people actually suggested that we should be prepared. I don't say this because it makes me happy. I don't say this because I want to ever want to be one of those people who says, I told you so. But Democratic leaders should have been more prepared because many people back in 2020 were using the word fascist when it was not really acceptable, when it was frowned upon in Democratic circles. In the run up to the 2020 election, I was asked a question many times. What happens if Donald gets back into the Oval Office? And I said, without hesitation, because I believed it to be true, and it obviously was true. If Donald Trump gets back into the Oval Office, it will be the end of the American experiment. Now, here we are. And too many of us, because our leaders did not prepare us for this, our leaders did not act like the threat was real, our leaders continued to convince us, because they had convinced themselves, that we were operating within the normal parameters of American politics. We don't have a plan, and we were lulled into a sense of complacency. Yes, this might be an anomaly, but there are enough people to rein him in. There are enough guardrails. None of that is true, because once they regained power, in fact, even when they were out of power, because the Republican Party did nothing at all to prevent this, they planned to dismantle the very mechanisms by which they could have been reined in. So what do we do now? Is there any going back? Well, I take hope in this. The first Trump administration was nothing compared to the current Trump regime. However, it was very bad. And Americans realized that there was enough of a threat there that in the 2020 presidential election, they essentially grabbed democracy from the jaws of autocracy. We have another opportunity to do this. We can snatch democracy from the jaws of fascism. Let's leave aside for the moment that we let fascism back in the House in 2024. But to see where we are, to acknowledge where we are, to understand that this is not normal, that this is not a democracy, this is not how things are supposed to work, will prepare us for what lies ahead. Now, what is that fight? Well, again, it's part of it is expectation. Do not expect some defining moment, fireworks that will illuminate the fact that fascism has taken over. Fascism has already taken hold. So we start from that premise. We give ourselves permission to fight a fight none of us expected to be fighting. We put ourselves in a position to force our leaders, to the extent that we have any in the Democratic Party, on notice that we will not support them, we will not fund them, we will not reelect them unless they too understand the terms of the current fight we are in. We will not support them, fund them, reelect them unless they are willing to stand with us, unless they understand they demonstrate that they understand what is at stake, that they demonstrate they are willing to fight tooth and nail for everything that defines us as a people, as the Trump regime continues to seek to dismantle all of it. Those are the kinds of people we need in this fight with us. Those are the kinds of leaders we must demand step up. Let's dive in. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Mary Trump Live. It is wonderful to have you with me. It's Tuesday. I keep being surprised by the day it actually is. Anyway, in some ways it's because so much is going on that it doesn't seem possible that it could be so early in the week, but also because it definitely, I get this sense of Groundhog Day. There's so much of the same thing going on. In a press event today, for example, Donald told us that he is definitely not a dictator. He said something very similar at a press conference last week. But in the same breath, he also mentioned that some people in this country would like a dictator. So let's just take a look at this clip again and remind us what exactly is going on here.
As you all know, Chicago's a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need him. Freedom, freedom. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and I'm a smart person.
Okay, well, that's the tell right there. He's a man with great common sense and he's smart. No. The only thing we can garner from that bizarre and, quite frankly, alarming statement is that some people who are saying they want a dictator would be Donald He does want to be a dictator. That's been clear for a very long time. However, to have him say it out loud by saying it isn't true, well, that's a new line that's getting crossed, isn't it? That is a softening of the ground for his followers. Oh, yeah, well, you know what? Maybe we do want a dictator, especially if it's going to be Donald, because he would be reluctant. He would be a reluctant dictator, so maybe he wouldn't be so bad. Then today, during what is being called a cabinet meeting, but really is just an opportunity for the members of Donald's cabinet to suck up to him in ways that suggest to me that they are all just the most self-loathing people on the planet. Donald talked about tyrants, and he brought up he used that same rhetoric again. Watch this.
But then he goes on television and says, "Oh, Trump is a dictator. He's a dictator." And a lot of people are so the line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime. So a lot of people say, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator. But I'm not a dictator. I just try to stop crime.
Okay, a lot of people, again, those are the imaginary people in his head. First of all, he's not stopping crime. He is like a one-man crime wave. So for him to say he's stopping crime is absurd on its face and quite frankly insulting. But again, what is this about? He is telling us what he wants. And I repeat, because it's important to recognize that this is not just about his delusions. There's a practical application here. He is trying to normalize the idea of a dictatorship in America for those benighted people who continue to follow him, admire him, and think that he can do whatever he wants. So that's the second time just this week that Donald has floated this idea, rejected it, but clearly embraced it. And it's terrifying. Speaking of authoritarianism, Donald has been taking a page from authoritarian playbook by attacking some of our most vulnerable citizens. He continues his despicable attempts to outlaw any sort of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. That's DEI. Yesterday, Talking Points Memo reported, quote, "The Trump administration has strong-armed the University of Michigan statewide hospital system over its provision of transgender health services for minors, sending a subpoena in recent weeks to University of Michigan Health. The investigation has prompted the university to suspend gender-affirming care at its hospitals for those under 19, unquote. To which I say to the University of Michigan, shame on you. Shame on you. The University of Michigan is a massive, extraordinarily well-funded university. They can fight this if they so chose. But for reasons that surpass my understanding, they have instead chosen to give in to threats from Donald. If a university cannot stand up for the most vulnerable people in our country right now, if indeed they choose instead to join forces with a cruel regime that spends an inordinate amount of time attacking trans youth, we have clearly lost our way. It is cruel. It is bigoted. And yes, sure, it's meant to fire up the base, but it is also a way to co-opt institutions of higher learning to commit horrific acts of neglect and abandonment and prejudice. Our universities are supposed to be better than that. This isn't Liberty University we're talking about. This is the University of Michigan. And it makes me wonder who is in control there? Who are on these boards? Who are the people making these decisions? And why is there not more outrage? The attacks on common sense also continue because, again, Donald is not a man of common sense. Earlier today, the New York Times reported that certain programs in Chicago schools designed to help Black students are now considered illegal DEI under Donald's policies. These programs include things like recruiting Black teachers and teaching about the concept of white privilege. Oh, well, okay, that tracks. Donald could not possibly withstand having the concept of white privilege taught in schools because he is a creature of white privilege. So it makes perfect sense that he would not want that taught in our schools. Donald's changes are, I mean, they seem absurd, right? They seem petty, but they are strategic because Republicans know that representation truly does matter. And they do not want our students empowered with knowledge about such things as white privilege. They do not want our students to know about our history. Not because they're interested in protecting the feelings of white students. Children are very capable of understanding how to learn from history. They're perfectly capable of understanding the value of diversity. No, it's to protect people like Donald Trump and everybody in their Trump regime. A Times report says, quote, research has demonstrated that students perform better academically when their teachers share elements of their racial, cultural, or linguistic identity. And a broad range of social scientists, policymakers, and parents have raised concerns about the lack of diverse male role models as a response to boys' struggles with academics and mental health. Now, the Trump regime lawyers are arguing that when school leaders direct resources to racial groups that remain behind, they discriminate against those that have traditionally been ahead, unquote. Wonder why. Why do certain groups perform better in our public schools than others? Why do certain groups get better grades or get into better colleges or have more lucrative or more successful careers? Well, because the deck is stacked in their favor. Just ask Donald Trump. This is a guy who couldn't get into college the first time around. So his big sister had to drive around New York City and finally managed somehow to get him into Fordham University at the last second. This is a guy who couldn't get good enough grades, so that same older sister did all of his homework for him. And then when he decided he wanted to be a big shot and get into the University of Pennsylvania, he paid some guy to take his SATs. And he asked my dad to ask his fraternity brother, who was in the admissions department of the University of Pennsylvania, to do him a solid. People like Donald do better because that is how our system is designed. To try to change that system is something that people have been working towards for decades. Because the playing field is not level. And if we are to succeed as a true democracy that is truly representative of everybody of this diverse population of ours, then steps need to be taken. But that would mean hurting the feelings of the entitled, obscenely wealthy, white, straight men like Donald. So it's pretty obvious at this point that the entire agenda of the Trump regime is a destructive one. We only have to look at what Donald has been doing to our economy. I mean, I will give him credit for one thing. When it comes to upending the rule of law, he's always able to do better. Last night, he announced a move that has no legal merit and if successful, would have disastrous results for our economy. At around 8 p.m., he posted this on his failing social media platform. He, quote, plans to fire a member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, Lisa Cook. The reason? A phony accusation. Sorry, this is not a quote. My apologies. The reason is a phony accusation that she violated the law to obtain a mortgage. This should sound familiar to you because he's using his Department of Justice, so-called, is using the same argument to go after New York AG Letitia James and Senator Adam Schiff. So this whole violated the law to obtain a mortgage rationale is pretty rich, coming from a guy whose entire business empire, well, it wasn't his business empire, it was my grandfather's business empire. Anyway, Donald's version of that empire was built on lies, cheating, and tax fraud. Ejecting Cook would help Donald gain a majority of loyalists on the Fed Board of Governors, allowing him to make the central bank bend to his will, which would be horrific because he doesn't know what he's doing. Ms. Cook has not been charged with any crime. She is fighting back against Donald's blatantly illegal action. And earlier today, in the New York Times, an article read, quote, Ms. Cook said that no cause exists under the law for Donald to fire her. Quote, I will not resign, unquote, she said. I will continue to carry on my duties to help the American economy as I've been doing since 2022, unquote. Ms. Cook's lawyer, Abby Lowell, added, we will take whatever actions are needed to prevent her firing, unquote. Later that day, Lowell announced they are, in fact, planning a lawsuit to challenge Cook's firing. Donald's assault on the Federal Reserve, an institution that has been independent since its founding in 1913, would have much wider implications than his just reckless gunning for one member. In the New York Times today, Columbia Law School professor and Fed scholar Lev Menand had this to say, quote, it's a mistake to see this as being about Lisa Cook. He's trying to take control of the Board of Governors by pushing out and throwing the full force of the federal government against them to scare them into resigning. That same article in the Times goes on to say, quote, economists warn that if Donald succeeds in pressuring the Fed into cutting rates, it could lead to faster inflation in the short run and make it harder for the central bank to manage the economy in the long run as businesses, investors, and consumers lose confidence that policymakers are focused on making decisions based on evidence rather than politics, unquote. Again, firing her is illegal. Putting pressure on the Fed to do something he wants them to do because he wants them to do it, as opposed to giving them the independence to make decisions based upon what is best for the American economy and the American consumer, is illegal, as is so much else that Donald and the Trump regime are doing. But this is all of a piece with their drive to make it impossible for the American people to have access to information. They are firing people who report objective data if it makes Donald look bad. Donald has been going after Jerome Powell for months simply because Powell refuses to lower interest rates, which would be disastrous for the American economy. And the reason Powell can't lower interest rates is because of the policies Donald is so recklessly enacting, like raising tariffs in a way that has absolutely no logic. Would just be another move to tank our economy, hurt American families, lower the United States standing throughout the world, and this is probably the most important thing, accrue more power to Donald Trump. More and more, we're seeing that Donald's total inability to lead this country, or anything else for that matter, is not going unnoticed. Part of the reason Donald is lashing out so much lately is that he knows, at least on some level anyway, he's failing. He knows that his poll numbers are bad. He knows that the economy is bad because of him. And these failures are causing him to lose voters, especially working class voters. I mean, how could he not be losing working class voters? He's tanking the economy. Prices are not going down. Inflation is going up. And he strong-armed the Republicans in Congress to pass the big abominable bill that is going to cause millions of working class Americans to lose their health insurance. People pay attention to such things. When it starts to impact them directly, they pay attention. Apparently, sometimes actions actually do have consequences, which is not something Donald has had to deal with very often in his life. Working class voters, which is a group Donald won in 2024, are starting to realize that they do not matter to the man they voted for. Yesterday, at a town hall in Bolivar, Missouri, a farmer sounded off about his frustrations to Congressman Mark Alford. Take a look.
I would appreciate you taking your father's U.S. Constitution book, read it, study it, make your own lines underneath it, and get Trump out of office. The man is a dictator. He knows nothing about what he talks about. I listened to him for about a half hour today, and I got sick at all the lies he brought up. The price of steaks, $20 a pound, because of big business. You want to straighten out the budget? Start taxing corporations and the wealthy, like we've been telling you. Do you think we're idiots? Do you think we don't pay taxes? Do you think that we don't have to make budgets? You're not helping me. Believe me, you're not helping me. You need to take your head out of Trump's ass and start doing your representation of us.
Here's the problem, though. I say to that gentleman who made such extremely good points with more articulateness than any Republican in office, and certainly light years more than Donald. They do think you're idiots. They don't care that you pay taxes. They don't care that you have to have a budget and that you notice when suddenly your paychecks don't stretch as far as they used to. They do not care. It doesn't mean, however, that we shouldn't have more people making the same argument. More people illustrating the point that the reason Republicans in Congress are not doing their jobs, are not representing their constituents, aren't even representing their Republican voters, is because they are beholden to, afraid of, or in league with the guy whose ass they have their heads up. So, as more working class voters realize Donald has no intention of helping them and never did, that may cause a sea change. They also recognize that he's trying to subvert democracy, or worse, and that is also potentially going to cause a sea change. So let's check in to see how Donald's policies went over with the rest of the crowd at this town hall. This clip will give us some clue.
And we could not start working on immigration reform until we fixed the hole in the boat. And that's what Donald Trump did. He fixed the hole in the boat. And so now we can start looking at some of these programs.
Yeah, boo. Liar. Donald, with the very considerable help of the fascist Republican Party and the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court, is the one who punched the holes in the boat. I was going to make an ill-advised joke about the size of certain appendages, but let me rephrase. Despite certain genetic traits in my family, I'm going to go about this as delicately as possible. I have very small hands. Despite that this is something that runs in my family, the holes in the boat that were punched are very big, and they're getting bigger. And the Republicans in Congress have only themselves to blame because they've enabled it for a decade now. And they deserve whatever contempt they are getting in those town halls. Breathe. Yeah, I have to tell you, I do find it, because it's very easy to forget sometimes that people who don't have as their jobs paying attention to the news all day, people like you guys are actually really paying attention. People who may have voted for the politicians who are causing all of the damage are paying attention, and they are coming to their senses, and they are having these moments of recognition and clarity. And to see the extent to which so many people at these town halls really do know what's going on, really are clued in, really get it, that this is not normal. This is not America. And even though it may be the party they support in power, there are limits to what they'll accept. So I'm hanging on to that. And I'm hoping that there are more and more moments like that in town halls, unless, of course, Republicans start canceling all of the town halls. At which point, I think the Democrats need to do what they did a few months ago. They need to start holding town halls in overwhelmingly Republican districts. Okay, so we're going to breathe again because we have come to our emotional support moment. Inhale, exhale. It's Tuesday, August 26th, which means what? It means that I remembered what day it is. So that's good, because that doesn't happen very often. But it also means that it's National Dog Day. So this day, in addition, a lot of, practically every day of the year, people try really hard to find good homes for puppies, and dogs don't have homes. Today, National Dog Day expands that mission to look beyond dog breeds and into dogs' hearts. So the purpose of the National Dog Day Foundation is to rescue 10,000 dogs every year. For more information on this, and we'll put this in the show notes, their website is nationaldogday.com. National Dog Day, all one word.com. So for today's ESM, we're going to take a look at a story out of Chicago. A service dog went missing from the Logan Square area after escaping an attempted dog napping. This puppy's name was Bam Bam, and he was finally returned to his owner. And this story captured the attention of the entire city. Luckily, this happened before Donald unleashed the National Guard. So let's watch this report from NBC5 Chicago.
In the early hours of June 5th, Angel Santiago says someone took his best friend from his backyard in Chicago's Logan Square neighborhood. He's been searching for Bam Bam, his emotional support dog, ever since.
Missing dog, Bam Bam.
Then Tuesday night, Angel's prayers were answered.
Two people walked into the station per the police officers at 16th District. They used the chip reader and it pulled up my name. My heart is overwhelmed with all you people that helped me and prayed for Bam Bam safe return, and I can't say thank you enough. It means really so much for me to have Bam Bam back.
Aw,
Remember
glad
that-
he's home.
Remember that original story? Regina was live outside of a grocery store where Angel was asking for Bam Bam to be
Yeah.
returned, and it's so great to see them back together because Bam Bam clearly means so much. And Angel also says he plans to use some of the money that was raised in a GoFundMe that was established to find Bam Bam to now start a program to visit people who are blind and visually impaired.
That's so cool. Happy National Dog Day, everybody. That is awesome. All right. It is time for your questions, comments, etc. So let me figure out. Hang on a sec. Sorry. Something's up with my computer. Just making it impossible for me to see your questions and comments. I don't know what's going on, and my apologies. There we go. Problem solved. My computer's been weird lately. Okay, let's go. Let's do this thing. Bill is a new member. Thank you, Bill. Welcome. Hannah is also a new member. That's excellent. Happy to have you here. Stacy 3107 is a member for 3 months. Neat. I've been a member for 3 months. That is very neat. Excellent. In the middle of nowhere, gifted 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. Thank you so much, as always. That's excellent and awesome. Mida Cheryl, thank you as always. Gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Lynette, thank you so much for that. It's great. Carol, comment. Hi, Mary. Nice to see you. Hi. It is wonderful to be here. Mida Cheryl, again, thank you. Comment. What wild animal would you like as a pet? Honestly, none. Well, let me put it this way. I wouldn't like a wild animal as a pet, but I would love to at some point in my life volunteer for a few months at an elephant sanctuary. I'd really like that a lot. I think elephants are amazing. Like, I'd like to be involved in some kind of like rehabilitation or rescue or just like helping, whether it's dolphins or elephants or what have you, kind of get them ready to reacclimate to the wild or that kind of thing. Basically, any wild animal. I love all animals. Mission Road 100 comment. Thank you, McConnell, Cruz, and Graham for enabling a dictator. Oh yeah. And for what? Like, that's the question. If I ever had access to them, for what? Hope it was worth it, guys. No, I don't. Lizzie Beth, thank you so much as always. Question: is it true that Donald's real name is Donald Trump? No, thankfully it's not, because then that would mean that that's my name. And no, but my grandfather's father's real name last name was Drump. I assumed it got changed at Ellis Island or something. I don't really know. Dorothy, thank you so very much. Nixon said, I am not a crook fee. Yeah, exactly. We do not believe these people. Carol, comment. We can never believe what Donald says. No, I mean, you would think the fact that the Washington Post, when it was still an actual journalistic outfit, tracked over almost 40,000 lies during the first Trump administration, that more people would understand that we can never believe a word he says. But apparently 40,000 lies in 4 years, public lies, is not enough. Ghostly Air 59, thank you so very much. Comment, Star Trek nerd wannabe fee. Hi, Mary. Hello. In your opinion, question, what are the best Star Trek series to start with if I want to become a baby Trekkie nerd before Trek Politics drops? I personally would start with, and this is not necessarily in any order, but well, it kind of is. I'd start with the original series, The Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine. In terms of the current incarnations of Star Trek, I would watch the J.J. Abrams reboot of Star Trek with Chris Pine, and I can't remember the other guy's name. Zoe Saldana is in it. Zachary Quinto plays Spock. And in terms of series that are currently on or have been on recently, I would start with the first season of Strange New Worlds. God, I sound like a horrible nerd. Maybe because I am one. But definitely the original series is the place to start because it's where it all began. Mighty Cheryl, comment, he does not stop crime, he commits crime. Uh-huh. Yes. It's amazing to me. Well, I don't know. I feel like I just keep saying the same thing over and over sometimes. But yeah, he is the criminal. Stephanie, Canada's in the house. Thank you so very much, Stephanie. Comment, Mary, us Canadians are watching the States in horror with what's happening to your democracy. We are so saddened, but we're here to support you and your pro-democracy loving Southern neighbors. Thank you so much, Stephanie. That means a lot because, yeah, it's tough times here. It really is because it continues to be true. There are more of us than there are of them, but it feels like it doesn't matter sometimes because they have a lock on all of the power. And our systems, our institutions are very weak, and they have figured out how to exploit them, weaken them further, and quite frankly, dismantle them. So thank you for standing with us, and hopefully we're going to turn this thing around. Therese, comment, Americans, please wake up and rise up. Yeah, well, we're trying. We're trying. But yeah, more people need to be paying attention. That's for sure. Susan, comment. Thank you. Yay. Joining us, Trekkies. You rock. Star Trek is just incredible. Richard, thank you so much, Richard. Comment. Rachel Maddow said to focus more on his actions rather than his words. Considering this is someone who spews garbage out of his mouth like a pressure washer, that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, look, it always matters more. Like, it's the same thing. Like, people have obviously often asked me, what's his diagnosis? Is he a sociopath? First of all, I cannot in good conscience diagnose him for several reasons that aren't worth going into right now. But then, does it matter if he's a diagnosable sociopath? No. He's acting like one. He's committing horrific crimes as if he were one. So yeah, pay attention to what he's doing. Although I do think that it is important on occasion to pay attention to what he's saying, because the way in which he speaks is revelatory. I don't mean to sane wash him, which is what so much of corporate media has been doing. I mean, actually listen to what this guy says sometimes. And if you really pay attention, you cannot come to the conclusion that he is fit to lead anything, let alone this country. Susan, thank you. My goodness, as always. Gifted 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. Amazing. Nanner, thank you so very much. Gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Excellent. Charles, comment, releases school grades. Yeah, but at the same time, they would somehow make it cool to have, like, C's and D's. Like, I'm beginning to think that there's literally nothing that he's done or that he will have been found to have done that would make his base care. I just don't. It's really weird. Michael, thank you so much, Michael. Comment, he wants to ban the COVID vaccine. Uh-huh. The vaccine he took so much credit for at the beginning. Donald doesn't care, but his Secretary of Health and Human Services wants to ban all vaccines. So I'm telling you, if you still have access, like get your flu shot now, get your Shingrix, the one for shingles, get that. Get all of your vaccines updated as soon as you possibly can. There's a new COVID booster coming out. Hopefully it will be available. It's for the new strain. Get that as soon as you can. Karen is a super sticker. Thank you so much, Karen. That's awesome and much appreciated. Greg, thank you as always. Comment, Mary, I honestly don't have words for how I feel right now about this country. Yeah, I do. I'll spare you though. I think you guys probably can tell. It's many, many things, but most of the time what I feel is anger, which is not healthy, but I think it's justified. Eileen, thank you so very much. This is in memory of Jonathan Harris. So I am sorry for your loss. Linda is a super sticker. Thank you so much, Linda. Douglas is another super sticker. Thank you, Douglas. That's great. In the middle of nowhere, thank you as always. Comment. I'm turning 75 this year. Every morning I wake and wonder where the hell I am and what happened. The two things that bother me the most, I feel powerless and invisible and will probably die before we get to a restored USA, all unnecessary and all his doing. Yeah, well, on the one hand, I'm very sorry that you feel that way, and I completely understand it. On the other hand, look, I think it's going to take decades, generations to restore the United States, but I don't necessarily think that is the outcome we most want. We need to reimagine this country, and we need to start from scratch for sure. I absolutely believe that before we all die, we are going to get a chance to right a lot of the wrongs that are currently being committed. So that's not nothing. And that's what I'm hanging on to. Cindy, super sticker. Thank you so much, Cindy. Jenna, Mets fan. Thanks as always, Jenna. Comment. Thought of you this morning while I was doom scrolling to relax. LOL. That is, that seems like a contradiction, but I completely understand. Someone turned the baby JD Vance meme into the Cracker Barrel logo. Hysterical. That would be. I need to check that out. Thanks, Jenna. John is a new member. Welcome and thank you, John. Loretta is a super sticker. Thanks so much, Loretta. Karen is also a super sticker. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. Mary, thank you very, very much. And this is a need more ESM fee. No kidding. Yeah, we're on it. Seriously, I think we should just have a whole episode of ESMs. CB&B, thank you very, very much. Comment, Donald is the hole in our ship of state. Keep bailing it out, everyone who loves USA. Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. He is the hole. Elaine, thank you so very much. Happy National Dog Day from Asher, Dasher, and Elliot. Hey, guys, and thank you. Nancy is a new member. Thank you so much, Nancy. Susan, thank you as always. And again, comment. Mary, thank you for the recorded video you dropped today in the Epstein cover-up. Folks, please watch it. Like, comment, and share. Keep the spotlight on Epstein. Well, thanks, Susan. And we're not letting it go. No, no way. There is a there. There's smoke, there's fire. So thank you for your encouragement and your recommendation. And we are on it. John, thank you very, very much, John. Comment, lots of dogs and cats at NYACC needing homes, facing extermination if homes aren't found. You can donate to help them get rescued. Okay, guys, you have your brief. Also, we need to get a point in our society where we don't have kill shelters anymore. It's appalling and unbearable, and it speaks It does not speak well of us as a people. So thanks for that tip, John. Carson, thank you very much, Carson. Comment, if you don't care about what your government does to you, your government will tell you what it's going to do to you. Yeah, exactly. And we're seeing that unfold in real time every day. Dr. Gretchen Floor, a super sticker. Thank you so very much, Dr. Floor. Brian is a new member. Welcome and thank you, Brian. Last but not least, Jimmy, I don't even know what to say. That is extraordinary. Comment, Mary, I'm going to make it to 60 tomorrow. Welcome to my club. My family has sacrificed their very lives to this nation. Love from Dallas, Texas. Yeah. And we are being led by somebody who knows nothing about sacrifice, who cares nothing about sacrifice or service. So, Jimmy, thank you for everything and happy birthday. And you just kind of blew my mind. So, that's a good note to end on. As always, you guys outdo yourselves and humble me. So I just want to thank everybody watching on YouTube, streaming on Twitter, and on my Substack, The Good in Us, everybody who is listening to the podcast. Also, thank you to our new members, to everybody gifting memberships, to all of our super stickers, and all of you who give us donations. It's really quite amazing. So thank you, all of you, truly. Thank you to our amazing moderators who do this day in, day out, just because they care, quite frankly, and have helped create this remarkable community. And of course, to my amazing team that never ceases to amaze me. So for everything you do, thanks, guys. And it's just going to keep getting better. All right, that does it for us. I will see you tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget, we do have videos dropping every day, at least 2, sometimes 3. So check those out. It really, really helps us. If you like them, share them, watch them, comment on them. We try to make them as informative, interesting, relevant, and funny as we can. Okay, that's it. I will see you all tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind. Bye. Happy birthday, Jimmy. Have a great day.